Hey guys, what's going on? Rye coming at you with another deck tech. This time I am bringing to you guys Pestilence Golgari Gardens. I was able to pilot this deck to a top 4 over at the New York Pauper Open, and I think it's in a really good spot for the current meta, so I'd like to jump right in and show you what we're working with. The main thing this deck is working with is the enchantment Pestilence. This is probably one of the best board wipes, if not the only true board wipe in our format. You're looking at Crypt Rats as a creature comparably, but Pestilence is so much more difficult for your opponent to interact with. It goes to the graveyard at the end of turn, assuming there are no creatures in play, but it only checks this at the beginning of the end step. So we're using Cauldron Familiar and Colony Gardens to make sure we have a creature around when that end step comes around. We keep the Cauldron Familiar around on our opponent's turns by sacrificing foods like Lembas and Nutrient Block. Nutrient Block specifically really good because we're getting our card back when we sacrifice it, and Lembas going back into the deck so that we can essentially always have a food for our cat to eat. Alongside, to get us to resolving Pestilence, since it is 4 mana and then requires even more mana to activate, we're using Cast Down as well as a couple other removal spells to get us through that early game. Go for the Throat and Spinning Darkness basically being Cast Downs 5 and 6. Spinning Darkness actually really cool in this list. You get to remove the top 3 cards in your graveyard instead of paying its mana cost to get a little Lightning Helix to a creature, a non-black creature. And that lets us stabilize really well after we draw 3 on our Fanatical Offering, after we've plopped down a Pestilence, just to get us that much life so we can turn that corner. We're also drawing a ton of cards with Fanatical Offerings and Eviscerator's Insights. Of course, you can sacrifice the Wellspring as normal, but you also have the Nutrient Block and the Spell Bombs. The Nutrient Block and Spell Bombs getting you that extra card as well. Now, we do draw a lot of cards and we go late game, so we have 2 copies of Campfire, not only because we need to keep our life total higher than our opponents to finish them off with Pestilence, but because this other mode that lets us shuffle our graveyard back into our deck ends up coming in very clutch against any deck that wants to go super long, like Familiars, that's going to gain infinite life. We can just wait their deck out and keep shuffling back up and go for the fatigue game. Our mana base is also working for us. In addition to those Colony Gardens, we got Golgari Rot Farms to pick the Colony Gardens back up, or the Bajuka Bogs back up. We got Witherbloom Campus because a lot of time we'll be sitting there with not much to do, unable to activate Pestilence because we need just a little bit more life to be able to kill our opponent. So we'll keep scrying until we get to that point, until we've drawn a couple more Lembas, a couple more Campfires, and then we can pull the trigger and activate Pestilence, say 8 times in our untaps, or in our opponent's end step, and then untap, activate it 10 more times for a nice big 1-2 punch. Going into the sideboard, Pestilence is great, but a lot of the time some of the faster red decks can get in underneath that 4 mana board wipe, so we need something on 3. Drown in Sorrow helps us out there. It is sorcery speed, but getting that -2 instead of the -1 is really nice. And then you always get to scry 1, which is just a little gravy on top. Fairy Macabre is a really nice complement to our main board graveyard hate. Since we have 2 Bajuka Bogs and 2 Nihil Spell Bombs, we can afford to be a little more selective with our graveyard hate in the sideboard. So we take Fairy Macabres to hit Lotless Giants out of the graveyard, to hit individual pieces that people are trying to recur, and then we leave the Spell Bombs for decks like Terror that just want to have a big graveyard. One of the more difficult matchups for this deck is definitely combo. Things like High Tide that can ignore all of our removal. So we have Last Rites. We amass all that removal in our hand, all of our cast downs, and then we pitch it all to discard any number of cards from our opponent's hand. It's nice to be able to do this by itself, but what makes it really good is leading into it with Temporal Intervention, taking a look at their hand and seeing exactly what they're working with, and then you can decide, cool, I'm going to discard 3 more cards, get rid of their last 3 non-lands, and just sail from there. Then we also have another Spinning Darkness. This is just really good against the aggro decks. Get Troublemaker Oofs. We need to be able to hit artifact lands or enchantments, and it's also really nice to be able to take out a relic that someone's been sitting on for the whole game. And then we're a green deck, we're a control deck. There's no reason for us not to play 4 Weather the Storm. The card is broken, it keeps us alive, and then it makes it super easy to finish our opponent off with Pestilence, because we don't have to worry about our life total. I think, once again, the biggest weaknesses this deck faces are from hand combo decks like High Tide, and then the red decks that can race us before we can really get going are a problem. But like I said, with 4 Weather the Storms in the sideboard, that one is significantly easier post-board. It has a really good matchup versus those red decks post-sideboard, as well as good matchups versus things like Jund, things like Affinity. Just being able to out-grind those decks is a really cool place to be, because those are considered some of the grindiest decks in the format, and Pestilence just poops on them. I really hope you guys want to give this deck a shot. It's been so much fun for me to play. Cauldron Familiar is a hell of a card, and I'm always looking for an opportunity to play it more in Pauper. Yeah, the deck list will be in the description, so please take a look and let me know if there's anything else you think would fit well in here. I'm always looking to make upgrades. You guys have a good one. See ya.
Thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please consider checking out the tokens I make over on Etsy. There's over 100 tokens available, but if you don't see something you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out in our Discord, as I do custom orders.